Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on a very bitter, cold Monday morning here to kick off the week. It's the second week of the earnings season. We kicked it off last week when we started with all those financials and so many of them reporting, and we'll get into that in just a second. By the way, this is the take for Market Rebellion. So as we get into the earnings season, and we kicked it off last week, we had a lot of these earnings coming from the financials. That's the kickoff. Well, could they hold on to some of those gains? Really having a difficult time holding on to gains. There's some bouncing to the upside. We had JP Morgan working really nice to the upside. Goldman Sachs working as well to the upside. But holding on to those gains has been very difficult. We talk about the XLF, this magnetism towards that 25 level. We've been down towards 23. We've been up towards 26, 27. But 25 seems to be the area that just pulls the financials into place. We'll get into that in just a second, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, is so many different push and pull mechanisms going on right now. You've got the Dow, as a matter of fact, on Friday, moved to the upside, finished up about 100 points, not at the highs, but some nice participation when you look at where they were getting some of their push. The industrials, names like Boeing, Caterpillar, Honeywell, 3M, United Health, those kind of names really definitely pushing the Dow to the upside. What was pulling on it was names like Chevron, we had Nike, we had Goldman Sachs, we had Apple, actually pulling on the other side of that, but still finished up pretty nicely. Not so much for the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ definitely struggling and actually did drop off of some of those higher levels from earlier in the trading session. So that was something that, I don't know if you'd call it concerning, but certainly that push and pull that we talk about all the time and the dislocation of some of the movements that we see, that still is occurring on a day in and day out basis for the most part, not every day. VIX finishing up near that 27 level. So that's something that's not alarming by any stretch, but certainly we understand why the volatility index is pushing up towards 27, not holding back down towards those lower ends where we'd gotten to, because now as we get into earnings season, and there's so many other different catalysts right now, obviously the elections, obviously the stimulus package, all of these things definitely playing in right now. What really is hitting it out of the park, the volumes, and you continue to see 33 million contracts we had in the derivatives markets trading this past week on Friday. Unbelievable numbers. We had Apple over 2 million, Tesla nearly 1 million contracts, NEO nearly 900,000 contracts as well. So a little bit of what that top heavy in terms of some of the volumes, but 33 million contracts. It was active, it seemed like, almost in every single sector. An incredible day once again. And we talk about this all the time. The derivatives, that's why we love this so much, because the derivative space is where we continue to see the growth. And that growth is very explosive. If you recall last week, I talked a couple of different times how we'd have those big jumps in volume finally once again. 27 million, 28 million, 30 plus million, 33 million. Really monstrous moves in terms of how much activity we are seeing coming into the derivatives markets, even on days where we are not so much seeing that on the stock side, the stocks trading side. So the hopes of stimulus really started off today. We were started off pretty nicely. We were in positive territory. People were pretty excited. Finished the start of the day up over 100 points. I'm looking, we are only 45 minutes into the day. I just sat down. Last I looked, we were up about 60 points. Now we're down about 60 points. NASDAQ dragging along a little bit as well. NASDAQ's done, it's not down much, 12 points, so call it relatively flat, but it did push into the red after starting off pretty nicely. Matter of fact, the NASDAQ early on, the pre-market, or right when we got to the market, NASDAQ was up about 90 points. We had the Dow up anywhere between 70 and 100 points. Some nice push coming from names. And I talked about some of the names were dragging. Well, they were some of the leadership names as well, but Nike, Home Depot, Coke, Merck, all those names were helping push the Dow to the upside early on. What was really some of the drivers that we were seeing in the NASDAQ was Zoom, Microchip, Autodesk, Skyworks, Baidu, Amazon, some big names, Microsoft, Apple, Intel, obviously, and many of these names also are working as well in terms of the Dow. We have Salesforce was positive early on. We're seeing a little bit of a turn, not a huge turn, but a little bit of a turn, a little bit of a pull. We know how fast these markets can move, so we're not going to overread just a quick flip from being up 100 to down 60 or 70 points on the Dow. Things like this happen all the time. That's the markets we're in. We talked about that VIX trading around 27. That's why the VIX trading around 27. As a matter of fact, this morning, VIX trading a little bit closer. It's actually up and above 28 now. Last I looked, it was 27.60 now. 28.30 right now, up about 3%, almost an entire point to the upside. So again, some very, very volatile moves even within what's going on in the markets themselves. And it's not always the single directional moves. It's these kind of moves where we're up 100 points, down 70 or 80 points, and then all of a sudden you start bouncing around a little bit more. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Some of the leadership and strength that we are seeing. Technology, absolutely. I mentioned some of those names, and I did mention some semiconductor names as well. Take a look at the semiconductor index right now. Early on, at least, the semis were up a little over 1%, 1.3%, leading in terms of where we were seeing some of the movements there. We're seeing energy really under some pressure as well. And energy, even though oil trading around 41, some of those beta names and energy itself with a little bit of pressure early on. Some of the consumer names did look pretty strong. We did have that big deal with Conoco and Concho that was announced. Not a huge reaction out of that deal. Didn't seem to have a real positive movement from that announcement when you looked across at a lot of various energy names. As I say, some of them definitely under some pressure right now. So I got two big things. One of them is the unusual. First, before we get to that though, tomorrow we're going to be having a giveaway. It's going to be pretty exciting. We've been doing this now. This is the 200th episode tomorrow of The Take. And because we are up at number 200, at number 100 we started off with something, and number 200 we've got another. So we're going to have a giveaway. So you're going to want to be watching tomorrow to see what that giveaway is and how you could maybe be one of the people that actually is able to get that. So that's going to be pretty exciting. The 200th episode of The Take tomorrow. Look for that. Should be pretty great. By the way, this week I got a fairly open week. I'm really excited about my Golden Gophers. They've got game day coming to town. They'll be here. And then we've got the game against Michigan for the Little Brown Jug. Very unfortunately, Michigan's got a huge lead on that and who actually is the winner of that series. Most of the other series that we have with various teams in terms of some of this competition, we have the Axe with Wisconsin. We've got Floyd or Rosedale with Iowa. Those are very close. This Michigan rivalry, unfortunately for my Golden Gophers, has not been a strong one. But maybe the tide has turned. We haven't played Michigan in a while, and I think the Brown Jug belongs back here. So Kirk Herbstreit and all the gang, they're going to be here. I used to work at ESPN on a regular basis. It was a lot of fun. They are some of the greatest people in the world, so I'm really looking forward to that. So we got game day all week. Friday, I will be back on TV. You'll see me on the halftime report. We'll talk about that as well. But I've got kind of a nice calm week leading into Friday and the weekend. Might even have some surprises for you on Saturday. We'll see what happens there. So I talked about the 200th episode of The Take and a giveaway that we've got planned there. How about this? Unusual option activity. So last Thursday, we had Hostess. Yes, that's Hostess like you think, Twinkies. Matter of fact, the stock symbol, TWNK, Twinkie, right? So stock was trading about 13 and a quarter last Thursday. It's still trading 13 and a quarter now. But the interesting thing is they bought last Thursday. They bought about 5,000 of these calls, the same calls. They went all the way out to December 15th. And today they're doing the exact same thing, except for this time, 4,100 of these calls, they're paying 25 cents. That's about the level that they were paying before as well. So stock hasn't moved. Stock's still holding right around that 13 and a quarter level and expecting maybe some kind of a move out of Hostess towards and up towards 15, maybe through 15. We'll see. But that's our unusual today. It's very, very interesting to see that it's a name that I don't recall seeing in quite a long time. And when we do see a name like that, and then suddenly we see it hit again that rapidly, that does call for a little bit of unusual. As a matter of fact, on our site here at Market Rebellion, we put a little orange dot on there to show, hey, look, there's been activity in here recently as well. So keep an eye on this one. So that's what we are seeing there. Much like we'd seen in names like Snap and some of these other names where just continually hitting and rolling. And when they're right, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. They haven't been right just yet. These have not moved, but pretty interesting to see. Buying, I think 5,500 or 5,300 last Thursday, buying 4,100 today, paying 25 cents. Risk rewards not so terrible. So that's one of the things that intrigued me about this. We just wanted to point it out because this isn't a name that we talk about. We don't ever talk about there are certain names that maybe go off the sheets or whatever, blah, blah, blah. They just don't hit very often anymore. This is one of those names, and so it'll be pretty interesting to see what the reaction is here, but definitely interesting. As a matter of fact, last week I found it interesting enough. I already own these calls, just full disclosure so you understand, and about this price level as well. I believe they started paying about 15 to 25 cents. Here today, they're paying 25 cents, so something to keep track of. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the 200th episode of The Take. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you and see you soon. Have a great day of trading.